The financial services industry is growing. We're not just growing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but we're growing nationwide. From San Diego to Denver, Virginia to Florida, we are growing. But we're not just growing with anyone. We're growing with amazing people. People like teachers, first responders, construction workers, veterans, single moms, and even couples. People who believe in creating and building generational wealth and leaving a legacy. We are also working with people that are looking to work with a company who believes in them. We're looking for part-time people or full-time people, whether you just need a little bit of extra income or you're looking for a full career transition. My question for you then is, are you who we're looking for? Let us know.
Ready to begin your business? Should you be an LLC or a C corporation? How do you track the cost of goods versus operating supplies? What are your depreciable assets? Are you structured to obtain business credit? Not sure? Get a boss. An individual business operations success suite from Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services will position your business for success and avoid the pitfalls of startups. From registering with your state, operating agreements, bookkeeping, tax filings, and more, Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services can be your growth partner at every level of your business. Schedule your needs assessment today at www.elite8financial.com/boss or by phone at 469-412-0056.
This is Dr. Tamia Guest with Rejuvenating Chiropractic.
This is Nara Reed with Modified Nutrition Health Coach.
This is Karen Marcel with June Street Barbershop.
This is Tiffany Marcel with Marcel Luxury Realty, and you're listening to Boss Talk Radio.
Welcome back, guys. Happy Friday to everybody. Have a few things coming up in the show today because we didn't do some of the segments earlier in this week. So look forward to Boss Tax Tips. Look forward to 5 Minutes of Fire. And we're also just going to have a conversation, hang out a minute, and talk about some of the things that's going on with you guys. So feel free to drop your questions. If you are just tuning in and you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay. Be sure to share the video. And if you guys have been following us for some time and you enjoy the show, contribute to the success of the show. You can donate to Boss Talk Radio using the PayPal link that's currently on the screen, paypal.me/Elite8 Financial, or $ George Dandridge to Cash App a donation to the show. We look forward to continuing to bring you guys exciting content and exciting guests. We have some things lined up over the next couple of months that really is going to bring you guys some very, very valuable information. So be sure to tune in every Friday and throughout the week in the mornings as we bring you the other segments. Also, we want to give a shout out, a dedication, if you would, to the absolute class act, the Queen Miss Cicely Tyson. She passed, I'm understanding, on yesterday. And man, what a life that's been so filled with so many contributions, you know, such powerful moments. Definitely an underrated actress in my humble opinion, or what have you. But we're going to go ahead and jump right into the show, and we'll see you guys after this.
Boss Talk Radio, the #1 online business and entrepreneurial talk show. Brought to you by Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services. Here's your host, the Texas tax expert, George Dandridge.
Welcome back to another episode of Boss Talk Radio. You guys be sure to leave your comments, share the video if you would. Go ahead and share the video. We have some valuable information, as always, coming to you guys. First, we're going to get into our boss tax tip for the week. And, you know, you guys always hear me talk about Facebook University or whatever. So we're going to dispel some of the myths that go on that side of the coin in Facebook University with some of the tax myths, with some of the boss tax tips. So one of the things you guys have to consider when you're getting ready to go into business, and you hear this all the time, you have to really look at your why. And one of your whys, no matter what your other why is, one of your whys has to be to make money. But I've heard a lot of chatter about people going into business for the purpose of saving money on taxes. Now, while there's a methodology to generate income and minimizing taxes or what have you, if your thought process is that you're going to create a business designed to lose revenue so that you can save on your personal taxes, you're hustling backwards. Taxes is a part of the game. When you hear stories about Warren Buffett paying less in taxes than his secretary, they're talking about percentages, not actual dollars. So today what we're going to talk about is the write-off. This is one of my favorite videos. Those of you that have been following me and saw Boss 2020, you saw this, and I want you guys to check this out for me.
What is that? Is that a new lamp?
Yeah, I'm thinking of bringing homeware into the store, so that's a write-off.
That's a write-off?
Yeah.
Do you even know what a write-off is?
Yeah. It's when you buy something for your business and the government pays you back for it.
Oh, and who pays for it?
Nobody. You write it off.
Who writes it off?
I don't know. The write-off people. What? Why are we having this conversation?
I die every time I see that video. So it's very, very common, the misunderstanding about what a write-off is, what can be written off, and what can't be written off. So we're going to hit you with 5 reasons not to write everything off. Reason number 1, improper use. Do not believe that forming a business allows you to save tax dollars on material acquisitions, especially when those acquisitions are primarily for personal use or dual use, because in dual use, you get into the percentages of business use versus personal use. There's actually been conversations where I had to address the myths. Some people thought that they could go out and buy a S550 and slap a door magnet on there with their handmade gift, sales thing or whatever with their website, and that subsequently they could write off their entire car and every expense associated with the car, when in reality, they had no retail space. Everything was online, and it's like, your source goods are shipped to you. You make it at home. Well, how does your car apply? So before you go down that rabbit hole, you may want to consider addressing tax professional, your accountant and or otherwise tax professional about getting into that type of a thing. The next reason not to write everything off, number 2, documentation. Writing off anything you cannot substantiate could come back on you in an examination. This happens all the time. I see it when people come in my office and I ask them about something that they hadn't considered to be a possible write-off, and they stare at the ceiling and and magically come down with an answer. And it's like, yeah, no, you kind of pulled that one out of your behind. If you're not going to do the compliance required to be in business, I suggest you don't go into business. Now, we're not talking about the little side hustles, which is becoming more and more of a thing in our gig economy. So even at that, you probably should be taking stock of, what you're doing, where the money is coming from, where is it going out to, because all, income derivatives should be reported. But without that documentation, and understand that your tax professional doesn't always need all of that information. We need totals. We need totals and categories so we know where to put things. You need to have that documentation, and you need to maintain that documentation for a minimum of 6 years after the tax return's due date, with any extensions applied. Now, that's the minimum standard. I really suggest 10 because that just keeps you covered. But I'd say anywhere from 7 to 8 would be the minimum for me. But the IRS says a minimum of 6 years. If you do not have this documentation, in the event of an examination, it can be very, very hard to get those approved. They may become disallowed. And when that expense becomes disallowed, it's now income you have to pay taxes on, income that could change a tax bracket. And if that happens, it could knock you out of the range for certain credits and things of that nature. And, that will drastically increase your tax bill. Couple that with penalties and interest, plus any repayments that have to be done. And it doesn't take much for it to add up. So you want to be cautious and calculating about what you can write off. If you have not been to our website, elite8financial.com, there's a section there called Tax Tools and Tips. And on there's another section that has most overlooked deductions, and you can find those by industry and look at some of the very common overlooked deductions. What I find a lot of times is that people spend so much time looking for the cheat code that you overlook everything that's plausible to you. So take a look over there at the website. Visit elite8financial.com /tax tools and tips and look at some of those overlooked deductions. So number three is management, profit, operating expenses, and the risk of a hobby. If the IRS deems your business a hobby based on the rules with having, ultimately it comes down to 5 years of losses or whatever, or not being profitable, they're going to deem it a hobby. And what happens when that happens is your expenses can only be deducted up to the point of any income derived from that. So here, if you have your tax return and you wrote off 20 grand of tax expenses, but you're telling them, well, you only had $2,000 in sales, well, that's 18 grand that's not going to be considered or whatever. So the number one motive to that, and the reason that the Internal Revenue Code supports business owners, is because they generate tax dollars. And so you have to have a profit motive unless you're by design a nonprofit. Also, the operating expenses. If you ever look, to really have a successful business, this is something you have to keep in check. You cannot have, just random expenses that you're trying to cite as a business expense for the purpose of a tax write-off and have your business just be unprofitable, because anytime anyone's looking at your business, they're like, oh yeah, you're a joke. You're not even, in this for the right reason. So you have to really manage your income to debt ratio, your balance sheets, so forth and so on. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get more into the 5 reasons why you shouldn't write off everything. See you right after the break.
Finding your brand space in this ever-changing economy can be challenging to new and established businesses. Graphic Line Media can help launch your business's brand potential to unknown places with creative revisioning that relentlessly presses the competition. From graphic design, web, print, apparel, media, and social, we have something designed to grow your business. Don't hesitate. Rule your space. Visit Graphic Line Media at graphiclinemedia.com or join our Facebook page at Graphic Line Media to get special discounts and offers.
This is Dr. Tamia Guest with Rejuvenating Chiropractic.
This is Nara Reed with Modified Nutrition Health Coach.
This is Karen Marcel with June Street Barbershop.
This is Tiffany Marcel with Marcel Luxury Realty, and you're listening to Boss Talk Radio.
I paid the cost to be born.
Do you own a business, or are you thinking of starting one? Whatever you do, you need a great business idea to overcome the competition. Possibly some new cutting-edge technology. You need something that can grow your business exponentially. Something to blow your customers away and give them the highest quality. At Bully AI, we are experts in doing just that. With our user-friendly software, we create white-label technology for business. This helps your company expand and lowers your cost for marketing, sales, advertising, customer relations, and so much more. All this is done by AI-based software created by our team of AI bots, big data analytics, and a great website. And you know what? All of this is available on our website with subscription plans as low as $7 a month. So, what are you waiting for? Subscribe now.
Knowledge, integrity, security, service. Get behind the shield.
What is that? Is that a new lamp?
Yeah, I'm thinking of bringing homeware into the store, so that's a write-off.
That's a write-off?
Yeah.
Do you even know what a write-off is?
Yeah, it's when you buy something for your business and the government pays you back for it.
Oh, and who pays for it?
Nobody. You write it off.
Who writes it off?
I don't know. The write-off people. What? Why are we having this conversation?
Welcome back to Boss Talk Radio. We're talking about 5 reasons not to write off everything in your business. So we got down the first 3. Let's take this off here and throw this one back on here. If you are currently looking for a tax professional, considering switching a tax professional, you can visit our website, elite8financial.com/client intake, and complete the intake form there. And One of our team members will contact you to help you complete your secure portal and take care of your tax matters. And in this day and age, of course, we're virtual. We have been for the last 5 years, interestingly enough, 5 or 6 years now. And every year we improve that process. And most of you are used to shopping and doing services online, so it won't be anything new or weird to you. So be sure to visit us there. And if you need to make an appointment to have a consultation, you can do that as well at elite8financial.com/appointments. So the next thing we're going to talk about as it relates to not writing off everything, or reasons you shouldn't write off of everything, is a little technique called depreciation. So consider this is your first 1-2 years in business, right? And you're not really making any money yet. You're putting more money into the business. And when you try and write everything off, right from the door, it makes it very, very hard for you to grow. And when and if you should grow, now you're having to pump some money into the business to avoid this now tax liability. One way to do that is through depreciating assets using a depreciation method. Depreciation can reduce taxes that can ultimately help to increase net income. And you're probably wondering how. Well, at that point, at that moment, you're not writing off this entire expense, but only a portion of it. So the rest is there as income. Net income is then used as a starting point in calculating a company's operating cash flow. If you cannot demonstrate how your company makes money, you're not a business. You're an idea. You're in the proof of concept stage. So this is one of those things that you definitely want to consider. One of the things I find very often is that people elect to use standard mileage deduction. This is not a favorite deduction of mine because in some instances it works, but if you're really in pursuit of business, it was better when you were able to have the non-reimbursed employment expenses where, contractors had to drive or whatever all the time. But as far as business owners go, it's almost always better to use actual expenses and depreciation because on any given single year, while it may not be the greater savings for you, it always pans out that it is in the long term. So that's one of the things you guys want to consider. And if your tax professional hasn't talked to you about that as it relates to your business vehicle or any property or whatever you use in business, you may want to, either ask them or seek out a different tax professional. Next one we have coming up here, and this is the one I get the call about all the time, and this is why we're actually even doing this, is business funding. I don't think there is a day that I don't get at least 2 phone calls about business funding, business credit, investing or getting investments and things of that nature. And so the thing is are you investable? Is that a word? It's going to serve the purpose today. Are you investable? Meaning, if someone were to give you some money, be it venture capitalist, family, friend, bank, anything outside of a grant, can you demonstrate the ability to pay that back? Well, when you've written everything off and there's no profits left to show, then no, you're not investable. Usually when this becomes a reality is for those people who are self-employed or have a micro business. And what happens is they tend to, want to avoid taxes. So they're not paying estimated taxes, which is a whole nother episode, but you're not paying estimated taxes. And then at the end of the year, you write off everything, including the kitchen sink, and some of that stuff is made up or whatever. And then they decide to go and get a home. And the bank wants, 2-3 years tax returns, profit and loss statements, balance sheets, whatever. Most times all they have is the tax returns, and the tax returns say that they haven't even made enough money to take care of themselves, even though a lot of times these people are six-figure earners. Typically barbers, hairstylists, people in the performing areas or whatever, these are people who tend to make great money, and they want to write off everything so they don't have to have any tax liability. But then when they have that need for outside capital, whether it be for their business or for themselves personally, let me tell you, there's this big push, there's this big conversation about the whole credit thing. Well, 800 credit score without showing any income means nothing, because if you can't demonstrate how you're going to pay, what's the point of the credit score? So keep these things in mind as you approach doing your taxes. Now, of course, the best way to save money on your tax liabilities, if any, is to do tax planning. And this is the time of the year to do this for next year. This is time of the year for your past year filings. Like, there's a few things you can do, but they're not going to make huge, impacts or what have you. So the thing to do is always to sometime between mid-September and ideally no later than mid-December, but at the latest mid-February, you want to sit down with a tax professional and have some tax planning done to show, one, how to save tax dollars. And while that may not become realized in-pocket savings at that moment, typically where it's going is into some other kind of an investment or whatever that is either that has some tax-friendly protocols to it that helps your money to grow. And that's the general idea. So this has been your Boss Tax Tips. We thank you guys for tuning in to this segment. We're going to be back after the break with the 5 minutes of fire. We'll see you there.
We could not continue to do our filing of our taxes in the traditional sense that we've been doing for so many years. So we opted to go ahead and take the advice from one of our friends that went ahead and referred us. And since he referred us, we said, we decided let's go ahead and check Elite 8 out, and we're glad we did. They were extremely very thorough, so that's part of the excitement that we really enjoyed with Elite 8. So some of the parts of the values that we really enjoyed was that they were, beyond the fact that they were trustworthy, very thorough, extremely responsive, and the fact that we could do things online just the same that we were able to do in the traditional sense.
Get behind the shield.
This is Dr. Tamia Gass with Rejuvenating Chiropractic.
This is Nara Reed with Modified Nutrition Health Coach.
This is Karen Marcel with June Street Barbershop.
This is Tiffany Marcel with Marcel Luxury Realty, and you're listening to Boss Talk Radio.
I paid the cost to be born.
So I saw this video this morning that I thought was really pretty interesting. And I have to say that it did actually impact my thought process early on. And I actually shared it on my page. If you guys have been on my page, it was a Tyler Perry video where he's sitting and interviewing with two leading doctors out of Georgia and talking about the COVID vaccine. And what I thought was interesting was you had two doctors on here that one was, an epidemiologist, and the other, I'm not sure what her role was, but clearly her role in the studio was to do the sister girl delivery to make, to bring home another level of comfort. So when I thought about how Tyler had introduced this thing, it was really, really interesting. So, he gets on, and apparently there was a video, I guess earlier that day or the night before. So he gets on and he says, "Hey, I got this call asking me, would I take the COVID vaccine in order to demonstrate that it's safe?" And first of all, shout out and props to Tyler Perry for his forward thinking of how to handle this, because what he then said was, well, hey, what I'm going to do, I have a lot of questions. I can't just, take this. As a matter of fact, my audience has a lot of questions. So here's what we can do. You can come down and answer all my questions and everything. We could do that on camera or whatever, and go about the business of bringing me to that comfort level where I can take this vaccine. And what was interesting, though, that seemed really, really sincere. It really did. But then, they have this 26 minute interview followed by him taking the shot. And I cannot honestly say that there was enough information there to bring me just to the point of 100% confidence, although that combined with one of our past guests, Dr. Jeffrey Sterling, and his leaning in on it, who he does community health and everything across the world, it has had some impact on how I view it and how I consider it. But it's not enough for me to say, well, hey, this technology has been here because we were using it for one thing, and so it helped us rapidly get to this thing, because once again, we all know and understand that drug companies don't make money from cures. They make money from being able to help you deal with shit. That's the whole game. Like, patch you up, let you manage it, and come back to see us, have you hooked on whatever it is to help you manage whatever it was. So the first part for me is, I'm hard pressed to be convinced that you went about this even looking for a cure. Now they leaned into the science, and the science does make sense or what have you. And they even stressed out this point about how the vaccine doesn't stay in your body. And in fact, that the vaccine that you're taking isn't COVID at all, that it's part of it, some type of a cell from it that creates a signal in your body that self-produces an immune blocker, for lack of better words, that then recognizes anytime this thing is there. So when and if you do get COVID or whatever, you won't get terminally ill. But me being the analytical person that I am, I had to go and dig into that situation a little bit harder. So I watched it straight through and I was like, wow, okay, that's kind of cool. Something told me watch it again. And watching it again, I was looking with a different lens, right? So I'm checking this thing out and I'm like, Tyler's asking some questions and they're answering the science questions, or the technology questions rather. But the real questions that we genuinely won't answer always comes back as, well, we don't really know, or we don't really have data on that. Interesting. So the young lady doctor that was on there, she did mention that we have a healthy level of concern about the vaccine. And I don't know that that's necessarily true, because as I go across my social circles or whatever, I see that most people that I come across more and more are really not only open to the idea, but eagerly either awaiting or pursuing taking the vaccine. And then there are those others that, like myself was way over here with it, like hell to the no, I ain't putting this in my body or whatever, But at the end of that conversation, what both doctors admitted was they don't know. That's what I took from it. Like, great, you have this science, great, you have this technology, great. When you put this thing in my body, this is what it's intended to do, or what have you, and then it dissipates. But these other questions, you don't really know. Some of those questions were ones like, well, can you still get the virus? Absolutely, you can. But they said, we're not sure. We don't have enough data. But just in the explanation of how it works, it was, yeah, you can get the virus once you, in fact, have taken the vaccine. But what the vaccine should do at that point is prevent you from dying as a result of contracting it. Once again, pharmaceutical companies don't make cures, That's the part that, was just resting right here in the back of my mind. Pharmaceutical companies don't make cures. And so these doctors all but admitted right on camera that, yeah, if you take the vaccine, you can very well still get COVID-19. The benefit of taking the vaccine is that when you get it, you won't die, is, pretty much what they were coming with. Some of the other questions that were asked was, does it improve the recovery time? Their response to that was, well, we don't have any data on that, but it prevents you from getting as sick. Well, we know there's different levels, like in the cases, like some people have a very, very mild case of COVID-19 or whatever, like I myself had back in December. In fact, as I look back on it, I've had COVID twice now. I had it in December of 2019 before it was a pandemic, and I also had it again in December of 2020 or whatever. And when I had it in 2019, I didn't realize that's what it was at the time. Nobody was talking about it at the time. It was like one day I was great, the next day I was extremely sick. And I was sick for probably a week, which is abnormal because I don't really get sick like that, But so at neither time was I at a point where it's like, oh my God, I think I'm going to die. But that's a reality for some people, especially those with pre-existing conditions. But some of the other facts about the vaccine was like, well, number one, you can still get it after that. Number two, and this is what I thought was like, alarming, you can still spread it without showing any symptoms at all. So, they want you to still wear your mask after taking the vaccine. And I'm thinking about this and I'm like, okay, so I can still spread it, I can still get it or whatever. So you're telling me that this vaccine is supposed to make it to where I don't get really ill, not that I won't get the illness. I'm sorry, I can't really understand the point right at that moment. Now, some people are saying, well, you're doing it for the community that you exist in, in order to curb these numbers or whatever. Everybody should get the vaccine and, it'll help us crush COVID sooner than later. Well, you just had these epidemiologists and specifically infectious disease doctors tell us that basically all this does is cut back on, hospital stays, because there's nothing about it that's going to kill it or stop the spread or slow down the spread by taking this. So here's where it got really, really, really interesting, right? So he says, well, what about the side effects? Black people are really concerned about the side effects of a vaccine, rightfully so. We have healthy levels of caution and paranoia about that. And this is what they said. And it made me ask, what world do we live in where you can tell the truth and a lie at the same time? So he asked that question about side effects, and this is what they said. If there's side effects, it's in a very short window. You're usually going to see side effects anywhere from a few days to at the most, and that's what like blew me away, say at the most 2 months. And then he went on to explain about technology and medication as a whole and said that, you know, we have such advances in medicines that we don't have the 5, 10, 15-year side effect or what have you, almost in any type of clinical trial. Any side effects are done or are usually happen inside of a 2-month window. And I thought to myself, wow, well, usually the clinical trials don't last 10 or 15 years. So the people that have these side effects, y'all don't know about it until somebody catches wind and some lawyer decides to cut his teeth on the case and, you know, drop a class action lawsuit. And then you hear that little quiet ass commercial. If you or someone you love has ever ... you may be entitled to, you know, we see this all the time. And it's always with medicines that's, you know, been out like, you know, 8, 10, 12 years that everybody's kind of like on at that moment. So, saying all of that to say, you know, it was interesting that at the start of this video, I was real suspect. They started to win me over, but by the time they actually got to the questions that I really wanted to know, their response was either I don't know, we don't have enough data, or worse, yeah, no, it's not going to stop this. You know, they were asked about side effects as it relates to particular ethnicity groups. Didn't have the answer. They asked side effects about pregnant women, children. One of the things Tyler did hit him in the face with was, well, why can't people under 16 take this vaccine? And the answer was astounding. It reminded me of that Cat Williams comedy would say, how are you going to tell the truth and lie at the same time? And that's what they did. So he turns around and say, well, the priority in any clinical trial is safety. So we didn't want to give it to them because safety is our number one priority. Interesting. You see how that don't add up? Safety is your number one priority, but you don't want to get it. It just don't make sense to me. Anyway, this has been 5 Minutes of Fire. You do your due diligence, do what's best for you, do what's best for your family. I'm not shaming anybody that takes it, but just don't shame anybody that doesn't. We'll see you guys next week.
The U.S. government has given billions of dollars to businesses in an effort to curb the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The government will begin to pursue recouping these funds in 2021. Aggressive penalties will be imposed on companies that do not follow regulations and guidelines for proper use of these funds. Criminal charges are already being levied on fraudulent use. Don't suffer again. Get a customized business operations success suite from Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services for your company today. BOSS packages include entity formation, payroll, accounting and bookkeeping, tax planning, tax filings, and quarterly strategy sessions to minimize your tax liability, increase efficiency, and maximize your profits. Make your appointment today at elite8financial.com. Get the guidance, tools, and protection your business needs now. Get BOSS. Get behind the shield.